So let's start, yeah. So I'm going to say, okay, let me see. Okay, 1, 2, 3, start. Okay, welcome to our Therapy Outside Therapy, discussion of the everyday life of a mental health professional. Okay, so today we had a very interesting topic. It's about what's going on in the therapist's mind, the session. Yeah, hopefully today's session we're able to help you to get to know us more. All right, so let me introduce myself. I'm Nicole here, a registered counsellor, specialized in marriage and family therapy. Now your turn.
Okay, thank you. My name is Wei Wah. I am a trainee counsellor here at Heal Systemic Therapy, and I've been here for about a year and hopefully able to get my licensing soon.
Licensing is so important.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I'm a licensed and registered counselor as well as a registered play therapist with a social play therapy USA.
Yeah, that's why we wanted to have this session because often whatever that you get to know is always about the experience of a client. But it's very rare for us to have video to get to know us as a therapist. So hope this podcast and this video able to help you to get to know us. And our aim is to able to bridging gap, between the therapist as well the client. Okay, so let's start, yeah? Talking about, it's like a lot of people may be curious about, so what's going on in the mind of the therapist? Okay, so let us point this question to these 3 therapists here, including myself.
Yeah.
And let's start from the young one.
Okay.
In terms of, soon to become a registered counselor.
I'm not very old here actually.
I know. Sabar.
Young at heart,
Okay.
important.
Yes, young. Okay. So is that okay to start first?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think maybe one thing I want to clarify straight from the start. Therapists cannot read minds. Yeah, if I can get 1 ringgit for every time someone says that, like, I'll be maybe 10 ringgit richer, but still a lot of people say that to me. Yeah, but as for me is when I in the session, right? For me, I'm a very visual kind of a person. So in general, when clients come in and tell me about their stories, right? I sort of just imagine the whole scenario coming out. So like even if they don't describe the person's face or the person's how their body look like, whatever, but I'll still go and make everything up, and then I'll imagine myself in that situation. So when I'm doing that, right, maybe unconsciously I would have some facial expression as well. But I find it really helpful for me to actually be empathetic, because I actually can imagine myself in that situation and put myself in their perspective. That is, in general, that's what my mind is doing all the time. In that 1 hour, or maybe in that 45 minutes and 15 minutes, it's mostly for me to check in with the client. I'm not sure if anyone is maybe weird like me.
Yeah, I think that is very interesting. We do have that thoughts, though even we are therapists. But right, a lot of people will say, oh, you can read our mind. And reality that we are trained how to able to talk in engaging our client. We do read mind. All right? I agree with you.
Yeah.
So now I pass it to Ray. Yes, Ray.
I don't have that. I don't know. The answer Wewa was giving is like, wow, that's like what empathetic. Actually, I don't. As a therapist who practiced for 7 years, sometimes I don't think that's always what happened to me. So if I were to dissect it into a few one, maybe sometime I put on therapist head, then when I put on the therapist head, then definitely what's going on, behind the line of the client, like that, what's going on behind the behavior. But if not, maybe sometimes, because I work with children, sometimes I put on the safety gatekeeper head, like, oh no, did the client just drink the water from my watercolor water bottle? Luckily, I always top up with, plain drinking water. And then maybe sometimes it's like a bit of self-doubt mode. Like, oh, did I say the right thing? Did I do the right thing? How am I looking? How do I look in front of the client when he say that? Because we are also carrying ourselves into that, not sure. Sometimes it might be it might be, really agree with what clients say, sometimes not agree, but, as therapists, we no need to agree and disagree. Yeah. But it's like, wow, really put on that head. Yeah. I wonder whether you all go through that. Like we have different head one, like, because ourself is, we carry ourselves into the therapy context.
I hear you, I hear you. For me, later that I use HAT because as I'm actually focused a lot into working with couples and family. So I see myself, I have to prepare a lot of bulletproof vests. Kind of like, making sure that everyone have this bulletproof vests are kind of being protected by those words and hurt. So I would say, it kind of like I'm like the so-called like a facilitator. Okay, put it on the vest so you will not get hurt. It's kind of like holding the space for a client. I would say that is, yes, can be challenging, very challenging because you want to make sure that the family and the couples have a talking term. At the same time, you know that it's not an easy process for them to seek help. So addressing it in an open heart is not an easy process. Yes, it can be very scary, can be very doubtful, can be a lot of uncertainty. Yes, that is what's happening to me as well. So I feel you.
Yeah. Oh, and I must say, sometimes it's like when you yourself are tired, like maybe that's the second session, but first session is already very overwhelmed. Wow, then you feel like, okay, not sure. Later on, I'm gonna have a cup of coffee or a cup of Milo for myself. Yeah, like a self-care mode, that kind. It also activates. But generally, unless we have this kind of talk or reflection after session, usually, I think by the time we sit in the session, 45 minutes of the whole hour is gone. Before going into what's on our mind, more curious on what's on clients' mind. Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
I was curious about you.
More curious about client.
Okay, so actually we have a few questions that we somehow see that client may be kind of very much curious, or society will be very much curious about it. So we kind of addressing these few questions, hopefully kind of like answer some of your curiosity about us. Alright, so when the client is silent, emotional, overwhelming during a session, that's what's going on in your mind.
Okay.
I'd like to start first.
Ladies first?
Lady first. Not included me, Really?
Okay.
Let's go ahead.
When a client is emotional, maybe you mean what do we think about in our mind, right? Rather than what we do.
Yes. Yeah, use as a therapist, as a person as well. Because I think our aim is to able to bridging the gap, right? Client, the society get to know us. So we are here wanting you to get to know us. So when I hear your perspective about you as a person, you as a therapist in the session at that very moment.
Yeah. You want to know the honest answer?
Do you want to know the honest answer?
Do you want? I guess that's the one.
Okay, right. Maybe I'll answer this into like my brain think in parts. Like answer in two parts. Maybe when I was a novice, when clients are very emotional. As an intern, as a novice last time, I will be thinking like I'll be very panic. I wouldn't. There will be 101 thoughts going on in my mind, thinking, oh, did I do something wrong? Usually, I will start with self-doubt. Or I will, what's going on with the client now? And then, still gonna have 45 or 15 minutes. We already silent. Will this client come back? Then, obviously now I know these are all personal anxiety. And I remember early stage client even asked me, are you okay? I experienced that before at my early
It's very kind client.
very kind client and very empathetic client. So I think those are what's going on. Just like any other human, I'll be quite anxious. Like, oh, what's going on? But as we practice, we know that silence itself is one of the very therapeutic moment. Okay, I see that you agree. Maybe we can elaborate.
Yeah, I think very similar to what you said, that you have self-doubt, right? When people, when the clients come in, have these kind of different emotions, being silent or like having very overwhelmed with emotions.
Yeah.
But for me, my anxiety is the opposite. Is that when they are silent, then I'll doubt myself. But if they're having
Self-doubt.
a lot of emotional expression, right? For me, is that time is I will zoom in. I'll be use that time as if like I'm in a fight or flight mode. It's like adrenaline rushing, because I know at that time when emotion comes out is where we can get the most information. Yeah. So there may be clients who feel bad about showing too much emotion, but at the end of the day, I feel like it's my responsibility or our responsibility in the session to let client be able to express themselves. But we also have to do our part to at least manage it, not too overwhelming, but us is to read between the lines as well, and what's the information behind those emotions. Yeah. That's for me. Yeah. But for the silence part, I also agree. Sometimes I do in a way compete with the clients on who can stay silent the longest.
Competition
Yeah.
race with client. I bet client is the one will feel.
Yeah.
Most of the time, client is the one
Yeah.
not feeling comfortable
Right.
rather than us.
Yes. Yeah. I think being comfortable with silence part of our training.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, yeah.
Very true, yeah. So part of training is to holding the space for the client. So I think what we want to say to you, don't feel bad when you're silent, when you're emotional, because this is our job to create a space for you to be able to just be you. Yeah, and of course, we as a person, the therapist, will have to kind of juggling those, but that is our responsibility, it's not you. So that's something that's very important for me. Yes, definitely silence. It was very tough when you just started your career. You really have this question mark. I totally agree with you. Like, do I got it right? Why clients were silent? Client shut down. Is that client didn't like my style of doing? Now in question mark. But I think after years and years of practice, you realize that silence actually comes with a lot of value, a lot of, what we call the treasures that we can actually use it as part of source to able to supporting our client. And sometimes client can be just so tired about life, and then they just no space as someone to engage. And yet here we are therapists to provide that space to able to engage, right? Them to able to let them have that space. I felt silent. I'm now at this state. I'm very much comfortable. I think coming to emotional, yes, it's all depend emotion presented. I think sadness, disappointment, anger, resentment is quite common emotion we experience. Yes, it can be very, very tough emotion to help processing it. But I think another part of me, I'm always feeling very honored, and the client actually trust us. Give that trust, that space we give to them, and they can just express this emotion. So we actually feeling very embracing that experience. So yes, it can be difficult for us, but we train how to managing it. I just want you to be able to show you, just be you, and what you think is most important, and you really felt you have someone to be able to process you, and someone to make sense what's going on in your life as well.
I agree. The management is very, is also part of our training, like management, holding space. Even for children. It's like
It's curious how during Ray you hold space for a child.
hold space for a child.
Yes,
Okay, imagine there's
therapist.
Maybe maybe like this, like maybe if let's say today, so if let's say it's a silent moment, then maybe the turtle is feeling quite heavy today. Or when it's very, when it's very overwhelmed, then the turtle is very heavy today. The turtle is very excited today. The turtle just need to hide in the shell for a while today. So when client doesn't feel that comfortable, we also reflect that's how possibly we hold space, but also at the same time, I think our role is more to help client to be aware of
Mm.
themselves.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing this. I think that was very fascinating. Wow, it's such a simple action
Yeah,
can
yeah, yeah,
actually.
yeah.
For me, just by you doing it, I felt very touched, lady. I can even felt how the child feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. How about
Yeah.
you? How about you? When come on, holding space,
Holding space, I think, for me is I'm very touched by what you said just now about feeling honored that you can hear those clients' inner emotions, their inner world. But I want to add another word also, not just honored, but actually privileged. Because
Wow,
we
yeah.
might be the only other person that they share this to us other than themselves. Or maybe it's the first time they tell themselves that. So for me is when I do my termination, my last session with clients, I do share this with them that I feel privileged to be able to hear of this with them. So I'm getting emotional saying this.
Aww.
Yeah, but yeah, I think I guess when we are talking about this, right, just about this issue like being silent or like being emotional expressive is to help clients just be themselves. Yeah, I think without worrying about if you're saying too much or too little. I think.
Yeah, I think we all agree here. It's like it's our training. It's our response to give that space to you as a client. Just be you, be comfortable who you are in the session with us. Yeah, it's a privilege and it's honor. Yeah, when you say it, this also touched me and stuff. Yeah. So yes, so that's what we want to share with you. So this is if you do have doubt, concern that when you wanted to be able to share this part of me, I just want you to know that you have this assurance that it doesn't matter us, even any therapy, we believe that they are trained well and to able to support you, give the space that you need. Okay, now we have another, I would say this one of the quite a challenging question.
Oof.
Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's regulate.
Bring on the turtle.
Very true. Done? All right. So, say the questions. When a therapist personally relate or struggle to relate to a client experience, I think we had to be honest as well, right? In some cases that we can really feel for a client. We can relate it. It can be due to our past experience, can be due to our training. At the same time, we also have these struggles, when we have client that we find challenging to relate. So I just wanted to know, so how you managing this?
Before I answer that, right, I want to take like just a quick hint. Whoever have heard this myth before that if a client has a personal issue, right, they will attract the same issue with the same client with the same issue.
Oh yeah, I also experienced that. Like I hope I will never see this type of client, or as a youngster who is also still single, dating, and then okay, I hope I don't meet up with client who is going through this kind of similar
Similar issue
as me, as someone who is dating.
Okay, so
So it's a universal myth that. Okay.
So how you managing it? So now back to the question.
Back to the question. cannot avoid that.
Yeah.
I think for me is one of the issues that I do see a lot in my clients is high achiever clients, that whatever that is enough for perhaps for other people, but seemingly is just below average for this kind of clients. And this kind of attitudes, this kind of values and belief is something that I hold true to myself also. Like even in the past is whenever I score like A, but also A is average, so I won't ever be happy with just A. But if I score B, that's the end of the world for me. So that's kind of very similar struggles that I share with a lot of my clients as well. So luckily, I believe luckily for me is that during my 2 years master program, it's one of the things that that I went through and got a lot of awareness, and also managed to work through it, so that when this same kind of issue do come out in sessions, I able to differentiate whether the feelings that come, is it really mine or is it really client's feelings? Because like I said earlier, right, we want to talk about empathy, imagining those kind of scenarios. So when I'm doing that empathy thing, right, is the feeling really client's one or is it mine? And if it's really client's one, then yeah, I can stay with the feeling and then still continue exploring with client. But if it's my feelings, right, then again it's back to my mini brains. I need to use one of my mini brains, multitask to take this feeling to another side first, finish the session, be with the client, and then after that, yeah, seek supervision, seek peers, or just do a bit of reflection for myself.
Wow, sounds like it's not an easy process for you,
No.
but I'm
Yeah.
glad you found your way to come managing it. Yeah, thanks for sharing. How about you, Ray?
Definitely, I keep emphasizing as novice beginner, you'll be both, whether you relate or you struggle to relate, also you will, like, panic alarm activated. Yeah, how? Yeah. But, as we get, as our experience increase, then we know like, that could be some of the best moment that we can connect with the client. So with that metaphor in my mind, it's like, this one I can relate, but how do I don't even go into how do I navigate or what do I say, but it's more of an inner mind, telling myself, okay, this is the best moment to connect with client, to ground myself first. So it's always about myself. I mean, it's when I do that very naturally in the background, then whatever it comes out, it will be very natural. For young client, management could not manage, as in for young client, it could be just a high five. I also think like that. It's a very natural non-verbal response. Even if you don't know, I remember my one client just come in and tell me about skibidi toilet. What's skibidi toilet? I actually don't know what is it. Can you tell me more about it? It sounds so interesting. Then usually it would be very natural expression when you ground yourself. Like, I'm not the expert of the of the universe. I don't really. I cannot relate to every struggle, and then and even if I relate, I also honor. I might be able to relate, I might be able to connect, but I might not know the real experience. So just a normal response will come naturally of how to.
I think what we can draw a conclusion as well, actually, as a therapist, as counselors, as psychologists, we are not perfect. So I think it would be fair to say that we were able to relate very, very well with certain group of clients, and we may not be able to relate with certain group. And I don't think it's a bad thing, because I think one of the concerns that actually we have is sometimes clients went to see certain therapists, and after that they felt they couldn't be relayed by the therapist, and they're giving up the therapy session, and they don't think that any person can understand. This is very heartbroken to hear that. The reality is sometimes you may have to keep working to find a right therapist for yourself. It's the same thing, right? If you look for a medical doctor, somehow you have a very specific medical doctor that you wanted to seek for medical treatment, follow up. The same thing for mental health professionals. So what I'm trying to say here is, we are not perfect, and definitely I cannot deny that we actually have certain characteristic, background, how being raised, it does able to reaching out to certain group of clients. And if you found that, I'm very, very happy for you. I'm also very happy when I can serve, and relate to you. At the same time, I'm also aware that for some cases that I may not able to, because different part of upbringing as well. But I think what I'm trying to say is very important not to give up. Not to give up to seek help, because sometimes you may have to look for few therapists until you found, finally I found one. And that's important for us to take note for ourselves. Because this is something that I very much believe that I always share with them, even with my student in class, kind of like the therapist journey kind of is also making a cup of coffee, then designing the flavor that you are comfortable with. So I just felt like I'm designing a cup of coffee or flavor that I enjoyed it, and I hope my client enjoy it at the same time. And I cannot expect all clients will love this coffee that I make. I think that is the metaphor I actually like to use, because at the end of the day, I'm glad some people love the coffee I make, and some Nah. Okay. I said too.
Yeah.
And then I wish, that you're able to find therapists who are able to make that cup of coffee or tea that you love, you enjoyed it. So I would say that important, I think the message is don't give up to seek help. Yeah, you will able to find, that's more important. Keep searching, keep looking.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. Because I think when looking for therapists, it's not necessarily just the experience or the skills or whatever tools or techniques they can do, but what half of the time is really just connecting with the therapist, making sure that that relationship you have with the therapist is a really satisfactory one.
Very true.
Yeah. If you don't like coffee and tea, make your own magic drink.
Wow.
Oh, that's nice. Magic potion.
Magic potion.
Okay, that is difficult question, but yes, we are all able to answer it. Okay, so I think this third question I would like to address is about when client put a therapist on a pedestal, wanting to know the therapist's thought and put as is true. So what happening sometimes, the client, they just can't hold on what we say. They really believe in that whatever we say is the best, the most ideal. And it can be pretty scary when you have clients to take our word by word and become their value. So that's why it's like, okay, so how to managing this when we have these circumstances faced? So like I mentioned, it can be a little bit scary for us as a therapist, especially me, but because I'm very concerned that how what I say may have impacted how my client feel about themselves and how my client will change their life because of what I say. Of course, with betterment is always good, but at the same time, we also want client to know that they actually have this mechanism, capability to make decision for themselves. Kind of like be able to share our perspective. At the same time, we also want our client to have this trust in them, right? They themselves can actually decide for themselves. Yes. So I curious about how you're managing this. So when you face this,
You know, just now when you ask that question, it sounds like when I hear, if I feel my client is like jotting down notes about what I say, then maybe now it's like danger, danger, danger. But maybe beginning, if you put in a very like, wow, if this client really would take what I say, that's like so nice.
So kind of how you managing that part? Like example, you kind of like good when client takes certain important note, and when client take, I realize yes, what Miss Ray says is correct. I have to hold it wholeheartedly. So how are you managing that part? So when you see that it can be a little bit extreme.
Actually, basically, we don't prescribe lah. Like, we actually don't prescribe. That doesn't happen. That don't even jive in it with us. Our role is to facilitate, that self-awareness and your own choice, your own value, your own, whether you like yourself or not, and how you're gonna make a decision rather than by us. So how do I manage that? Basically, remind myself that we are just part of the journey. We are just someone in part of the journey to facilitate this empowerment road pathway for the client. But if putting behind that, sometimes we can get really tired and we fall into the trap. Oh, the client just needs something. Should I give or should I not give? Maybe client is in that state of shaky, and then we are trained counselors, so maybe magic phrases will be, you want to tell me more? What's going on? When you said that, basically when we ask that, yes, it's to help client, but sometimes also to help myself. It's more to sometimes also help myself to pace myself and pace the client. Of course, all these are techniques, but it also ties into our own awareness of self. If I'm not calm or not regulated in the session, I wouldn't say that. I would like, I quickly want to fit into client needs. That's what happened as a novice or beginner last time. But of course, now we pace ourselves better. How we pace ourselves, then we could regulate the client, ask those, what's going on when you say that? And give myself time to make decision what to respond next.
Yes, how about you, Wei-Wang?
I think for me, very similar. The first thing that comes to my head is scary. It's actually very scary because then for that 1 whole hour, everything that I say must be 200% extra caution. So whatever I say can then be whatever then they take it to be the truth. And in a way, it makes it as if I'm in control of their life, which I don't want, which I really don't want to. At the end of the day, I think one of the goal of therapy session is just to give back the empowerment, give back the control back to the therapist's life. So yeah, for me, if it really happens, is what I try to do is whenever they show even just a little bit of their own initiative, I will give reinforcement. a lot of reinforcement for their own initiative. So hopefully that will keep on growing.
But I'm very much curious how you're managing that fear.
That's right.
Okay.
So when you have this
Yeah.
scary,
When you are nervous, you can't do
so how
that
are you
one.
managing that?
I think it's sort of like I don't know if it's a trick that every therapist do, is that sometimes after I don't know 1 or 2 years of therapeutic experience, right, sort of develop 2 or 3 different brains, so we can do a lot of multitasking at the back. So I'll switch on one of my brain at the back is to do mindfulness. So I'll have one small brain at the back just like telling me, take deep breath first, just be present right now. Be present with your client right now who is in need of you, and then once the session is over, then we can address this fear together.
That's nice. Yeah. Yes, whatever you both share is
Yeah.
also very relevant to me. Yeah, because I also went through that process. But I also have learned sometimes circumstances given, we may have to evaluate and decide at that very moment. Because sometimes client really just so lost.
Yeah.
And then they say, please let me have something that I can just bring back home with me. And sometimes we will have to go to this mood. Okay, what you need to do, step 1, step 2, step 3. And I know that client may have the car, like, hold it, because that's how car become like, something for them to hold, to get them floating, before they drowning, and they come to seek help. So I would say, yes, we do have therapies, we do that sometimes. We do give a little bit more like a certain thought, certain perspective. But same time, I think it's also our responsible to make sure that client don't depend on that. I think that part is how to navigating this part. I felt is important for us as a therapist. Be very mindful. Like you say, when we actually able to be aware, we have this fear, we're fighting because we're afraid they're going to hurt our client, which I think is a very nice thought of you, because you usually put client the priority. But sometimes if therapist is not careful, you feel, wow, I'm feeling so empowered. My client love what I say, love what I do. So no, this is not what therapists are trained to do it. Therefore, sometimes we hear this statement, I cannot decide for you. You have to decide for yourself. It's a very common statement because we are trained to try not to go into decision making for you. But we understand that the time that when you really need help, we will come. At the same time, we always have, I call like an inner supervisor, that we are trained part of monitoring ourselves. Making sure that you have the best interest in heart whenever we support you. So our struggle, we have to managing it. As I mentioned, that we're going to seek support from supervisor. Sometimes we're processing our peer to able to make sure that we got it right and make sure that client has interest, right? Yes, I would say that sometimes finding that way to navigating, making sure we on the right track as a therapist. It is not an easy process. But we have to keep grounding ourselves, reminding ourselves how important to be able to do that. Okay.
But disclaimer again, even if client you want to bring in a notebook and ask me what do I do and write down, we also won't reject you.
True. We'll just write in our report later.
Yes, write in our case notes.
Okay, so today we have how Lionel answer these 2 interesting questions. So hopefully more interesting questions that we're able to answer. If you're very much interested to get to know us more, I think it would be nice that you usually give a comment and let us know questions that you wanted to get to know us as a therapist. We try our best to see whether we can answer the question. Okay, so thank you so much for your time. Much appreciate.
Bye bye.
要跟那个茶叶打广告。
Next time we need to charge money.
Endorsing lady.
Yeah.